Hello. So in this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about the area of a rectangle and the area of squares and how we can use these formulas to find the area of rectangles and squares. So let's begin by talking about these formulas. So we have area of a rectangle and then area of a square. If we're going to go back to remembering the difference between a rectangle and a square is that a square, all of the sides are the exact same. So when we have a rectangle, we're going to do length times width, and these could be different numbers. But a square, sometimes they're only going to give you one side, and that is because they only need to. Because if I give you just one side, all of them are the same. So that's why when we talk about two formulas, we can either do S times S to find that area, or a number times itself can be written as an exponent. So that is another reason you will see that in both senses. Now down here, we have area of a triangle. So we have two formulas here. So let's talk about why. So a triangle, if you think of like a sandwich, that's how I think about it. A triangle is half of a square. Even if it doesn't necessarily look like it, it is. So if I were to draw it like this, it would be quadrilateral, and then we would just cut it in half. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that base of a triangle, and we're going to take the height of a triangle, and then we're just going to cut it in half. So you can, when I say cut it in half, you can either divide by 2 or multiply it by 1/2. It's the same thing. All right, so multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2 is the exact same thing. So that's why you might see two different formulas. So let's do some examples. Alrighty, example number 1. What is the area of a square? So we know that the area of a square is length times width, or the area of some sort of rectangle. However, it only gave us one side. So how am I supposed to measure it? Well, we're going to go back to what we know about squares. And I told you that a square has the same side. So if this side is 8, that means this side's 8, this side's 8, and this side's 8. So they're all 8s. So when we are finding the area, we just need to take length, which is 8, really doesn't matter, and another 8, because they're all 8s, and we're going to multiply them together. So in this case, your area would be 64 feet squared. So you're just taking two sides and multiplying them. All right, so in this activity, we're actually not trying to find the area. It gave us the area. We've just got to use the formula to help us find the missing length. And it already gave us a variable because that represents a number we do not know. So let's think about that formula. So area equals length times width. All right, so what do we know? We know the length or the width. Really doesn't matter which one you want to do. And I'm going to put that 10 there. What I don't know is the width. And it gave me a variable, so I'm going to put the letter C. But I do know the area. It actually gave it to me right here. So I'm going to put 110. So 10 times a mystery number would give me 110. So now we're going to go back to those one-step equations. I want C by itself. That's the goal. So we have to do the inverse operation, and we would divide. We do it, and we divide by 10. These end up canceling. 110 divided by 10 is 11. And you can always check your work by saying, okay, if this side is 11, that's awesome. Does 11 times 10 give me 110? And it sure does. Now let's talk about triangles. So in this case, we have a triangle and it wants the area. So we have that area equals base times height divided by 2. So we're going to change up some colors a little bit just because it's more fun. So we have area equals, all right, we need our base. So let's talk about the base. We have a bunch of numbers here. The base of the triangle is the bottom of the triangle. It's typically the one that is perpendicular or a 90-degree angle from the height. So this case, that is our base of the triangle. It's not always at the physical bottom of the page, but it is the bottom of the triangle. Now we have to talk about height. So when we're trying to find the height of a triangle, we actually have two numbers to deal with. But let's go ahead and think about it. If you go to a doctor and you're trying to measure how tall you are, your height, you're not going to stand at an angle against the wall. You know how they do stand up straight. So when we're talking about height, You're looking for the straight up and down, and it's typically a dashed line. Not always, but it is typically a dashed line. It also might not be in the middle of a triangle. It could be here as well, but it's the straight up and down line. It's the height of the triangle. So your height we're looking at is 6. And then we can't forget the whole divided by 2 thing. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we're just going to follow 9 times 6, which is 54. And then we're going to do 54. Remember, cut it in half if it's a triangle, and you're going to get your area as 27. Super fun, super easy. Let's do one more triangle. So in this case, the triangle is on its side, but that's okay. We can still figure it out. So we have our base, which I told you it's the one that does that 90-degree angle to the height. So this would be our base, which is 9. Then we're going to talk about height. So let's go back and get another color. Our height is typically the dashed line. It's typically the line that goes through a point. Like, see how it goes through a point right here? Oh, it's a little different size. So then we're talking about 10. And of course, divide by 2. So we have 9 times 10, which is 90, divided by 2, which is going to give you 45. If any of these went too fast, please feel free to rewatch this video. You can rewind it and watch it as many times as you'd like. So now let's talk about what if you're given something like this. So this is really typical of what you're going to be given. And they're going to do examples like this is a pool and we want to measure the perimeter around the pool, the walking space, and things like that. So what you're going to have to do first is we have 2 things here. We have this like teal-ish, I guess, this like teal square that we're going to go ahead and, oh, I guess that's the wrong side. Let's try this again. This like teal square, right? And we're going to find the whole area. So it's almost like finding the area if we're going to pretend that like purplish white square doesn't exist is what the goal here is. So in here, it's just 10 times 13. So there we have 10 times 13, and we're going to have 130. So if we were to do 130, that is this entire area. That's as if that white square in the middle doesn't exist, but obviously it does. So, but I just want the green. So we're like, okay, well, how in the world do I find out that purple, this purple square? So we're going to use the 2 sides given here to find that area. So let's do that. So we're going to have 8 times 6, which is 48. All right, that's times. All right, so if I were to have this whole square and I were to cut out the white square, I would have to subtract it. So then you just take this whole area, which is 130, and subtract what you want to cut out. And of course, you can always use your calculator. That Desmos calculator is there for you. So we have 130 minus 48. So your total should be 82 meters squared. That'll be the area of just the shaded part because it's the whole thing minus what you cut out. Alrighty, let's do one with the triangle. What if I just wanted this border? Right, so let me get my colors going. So we have an orange square and we have like a light blue square. Or sorry, there's an orange triangle. So I'm going to go and just worry about the area of this triangle. It gave me the 2 sides for it, which is awesome. So we have 27 and 30. So we have 27 times 30, but this is a triangle. So that means you cut it in half all the time. Always cut it in half because that's how you get like a triangle of a sandwich. So 27 times 30 is 810 divided by 2 is 405. So if I were to not have this white triangle inside of it, this entire area would be 405 feet squared. But now let's do that light blue. Now let's do this triangle because I cut that out. So we have 19 times 21 and it's a triangle. So divide by 2 always. 19 times 21 is 399 and I got to cut that in half, which is going to turn into oops, sorry, 199.5. All right, so now what do we do? Well, I had this big orange square, which is 405. I cut out this blue one. They're white, I know, but it's got blue borders. I cut it out, so I'm gonna subtract it out of there. And let's see what our total is. So we have 405 minus 199.5. And for this one, I got 205.5. And that's as simple as it gets. Again, if this video went too fast or too slow, or there was certain examples you want to watch again, just give it a just rewind it or pause it or take notes. I am hoping it helps, and I will see you in class.